There's something strangely beautiful about keeping it simple. Never have I looked at a game like BioShock and wished for less. Watching a heart-wrenching cinematic experience play out in front of my eyes. So engrossed with the level of storytelling and emotion expressed through dialogue. Never once have I asked it to be stripped back or simplified visually or from a gameplay perspective until I played Mirror's Edge. I always found myself looking for more in the games with complex systems as soon as I got a hold of it. Whether that's more plasmids in the aforementioned BioShock or the unique weapons that deal massive damage in Borderlands. I wanted more from the story, more from the characters, more from the weapons, more from the world. But Mirror's Edge taught me that I don't need more. I don't have to jump into hours upon hours of swimming through a sea of game files and tutorials to get the most and best experience I could. It taught me the opposite, that I not only didn't need the surrounding information, but that it made my experience with the game worse than it should have been. I didn't watch any videos, I didn't look up any guides, and I would say it's what pushed me to where I am now. These days, I just jump in, and that's how I feel games are meant to be played. But I do understand not everybody feels that way, so if you don't know about Mirror's Edge or the world we are in, I'll give you a brief rundown before we get into the rest of the video. We play as Faith Connors, a runner in the city of... the city, that slowly went from a bustling town to a utopian nightmare. We deliver things around the city that our lovely overlords don't want us to be delivering. Our amazing sister is caught up in the murder of Robert Pope, and we not only have to figure out how, but who framed her, and have to save her from the hands of the ones responsible, probably ruining her career and leaving a target on our backs for the rest of our lives, ending it on the edge. It's nothing special, it's not a cinematic masterpiece, it's not the peak of storytelling, but it's fulfilling. In what is admittedly a short 3-hour experience, we have a satisfying end that does leave us open for a sequel. Even though now we all know how that was actually handled, we had basically the entire city after us, leaving us to be on our own like we already were. It left the story in a place where we truly didn't need to wonder what's going to happen next. We run, like always. But it left it with opportunities. Maybe a story arc with a sister becoming a runner, or us fleeing, trying to take down the corrupt people in the city, but it's left about as simply as it needed to be. Seeing Miller not only play both sides but working with us, knowing Kate was innocent, and believing the same person he's meant to be hunting can be really touching. Though at times it does feel like he's going to betray us, talking to Ropeburn, then confronting us with armed guards just to shoot them in the back is all part of his plan. Merc is always there, maybe not directly but over our shoulder, giving us info about the job we are doing or how to get out of the shitstorm we found ourselves in. Even having Celeste be on the opposite side the entire time, it was a surprise the first time around, and it contextually changes our first few meetings with her. The first being in the tutorial where she is teaching us how to fight, how to run, all to prepare us to take her on later in the game. I like to think of it in two different ways. She's preparing us to take her out, and she knows it will come down to it. Or she's teaching us as little as possible so we don't stand a chance, only giving us the basics to take on regular old law enforcement, but not enough to win our fight with her. The second being when we throw her the briefcase we ran through tons of police for, and what happened to that information? Did she give it away? Did she sell it? Or did she do right and either deliver it where it's meant to go, or to Merc? Even if she did steal the info, was it still intact when she delivered it? Possibly changes everything we understood up to that point. It's kind of nice having a story that doesn't rely on absolutes, that also isn't hundreds of hours long, and here with characters that are written well enough to attach to them and make it impactful. The gameplay, in my opinion, takes the exact approach the story does, being that less is more. Such a simple moveset that leads to endless possibilities, and it does it so incredibly well. Not only are we not truly using the moveset perfectly, but we learn it in such a way where it leaves us to explore it on our own when we are finally let out into the world. We are shown the bare minimum by Celeste in the opening minutes of the game, then are forced to go out to use the movement in a way it may or may not have been completely intended, or just to make traversing through the city incredibly fluid. Not only does it just feel incredibly smooth with such a simple system, but it also sort of shows us how Faith and the other runners view the city. Nothing around the city is actually red, but we are seeing it change in real time as they see something they can use to move around faster or to get over an obstacle that's in their way. Nothing truly stands in front of us if we have the want, or we can find a way to get through something using a mixture of walls, poles, and the almighty leg curl. We can get pretty much anywhere, in any way we truly want to. Except when climbing pipes or on ledges, they're such pace killers that can ruin the fluidity of a run. It takes what could have been an amazing line or pace and brings it down to a crawl. It can also lead to a major roadblock if you want to play the game completely as pacifist, where you are surrounded by SWAT members and they absolutely blast you while you're trying to escape them while climbing a pipe, but there are ways around it. And that's another place this game excels over its successor, Mirror's Edge Catalyst. The choice in how you can use combat to your advantage, just having the ability to play either as a pacifist and not touching a single hair on anyone's head, or mowing down anyone and anything, stealing their weapons then using it to lay them out, or even just disarming enemies and running past them after tossing their gun to the side. It just makes the combat in the game that much more enjoyable. I usually play Faith as someone who doesn't kill, but will beat the shit out of someone if she really has to, and it's amazing to have that choice. In Catalyst, we had to beat people up, but we aren't allowed to shoot them. It took away a lot of the fun in building a story for your character outside of the main storyline, especially in a game that's supposed to be about choice. Of course, there's technically less choice based on the fact in Catalyst, there's a focus on leveling up and choosing skills in a skill tree, but it does not feel like true choice, considering we have to unlock simple moves in the second game, while in this first game, we have everything unlocked from the beginning. The skill roll, we are already as fast as we will ever be, and we don't have to level up, and again, while I don't necessarily dislike those things, it's all about the simplicity of the game. Of course, I do wish at times we could upgrade some things, like our speed climbing pipes or ladders, but it's us being thrown into the deep end, at the peak of our game. Again, nothing truly stands in our way.
I want to go back to something I said earlier with the world not actually being red, but Faith seeing it as a playground. That truly builds the city in a way the rooftops truly feel like an obstacle course instead of the utility it was originally meant for. The city is sleek and built for efficiency. Again, it's simple and feels as if no one actually lives there. There's no real personality, which is exactly what I expect from a dystopian future. It's all a blinding white, and only pops of color are in the advertisements, the blue areas, which of course mark where their police are, and the red, which only we can see. Buildings are either just boring old white bricks or incredibly reflective glass. The interiors are all the same, painted a pale, sickly green. Even going down into the sewers and construction sites, it's all just green. Even then, the interiors are, again, about to say my favorite word, simple. Nothing looks lived in, it all looks produced to be as efficient as possible. I've seen others on the internet talk about how the look of Catalyst's more lived in environments is better, which I agree with to a certain point. It's nicer to look at. The world feels more lived in and less dystopian, which kind of defeats the purpose in my opinion. The collectibles also follow this sort of simple world building way of doing things by actually making sense and having a narrative purpose compared to the grid leaks in Catalyst. In our first real run, we toss a big ol' sack to Celeste, and then we pick them up all over the city, which I feel like makes sense. There are 30 in total, which is so much more manageable than the almost 700 grid leaks on top of whatever else you had to collect. The world is also built in a way that it gives you quite a clear path through the level, and it's the way a lot of people would end up going. But when you do explore, you skip some of those obstacles that can not only be annoying, but even just some simple ones, saving tons of time, or the run ending up looking smoother than it would have been if you took the obvious path, and if you didn't explore or watch a video, like I'm sure a lot of people did, including myself for some of the achievements, you wouldn't find those places, and that makes the speedrun elements of the game just that much more rewarding. All these little skips you can find can be used to your advantage outside of the main game, which is really nice to see. A game based solely on speed, flow, and using the environment to get to where you need to be, it's only right for there to be a speedrun mode, where those little finds can make a big difference, including some incredible time skips. I could be here for hours, but even just being able to stand on a specific corner of a platform, dropping down, it's such a huge time save, that it opens you up to be able to make a mistake later on, and still make it within the time you have. Going through full chapters as fast as possible can be some of the most rewarding moments in the game, especially when you get that trophy or achievement to pop, after possibly wasting hours trying to get the run perfect. In my opinion, it shows how not only in video games, but in life, you make one mistake and it's not over, because there are places to make it up, but that's mostly in the chapters, where you have so much more leeway than the time trials, where you only have about a minute and you have to learn the exact route that's the most efficient and gets you through all checkpoints the fastest, because if you ever miss one, it's over. You might as well restart and try again,
or you will not get those 3 stars, which I know a majority of us strive to get. They drop you into an area you've already been countless times before, but this time they want you to take a route you probably wouldn't have. You have to follow checkpoints, and the music is incredibly tense due to the strict time constraint, and then you pass the finish line and you're at ease. The clip you've probably been watching this whole time is me going through the Edge time trial, and I was so happy when I finally got it. So many little mistakes that forced me to reset almost immediately. Now, I'm not the greatest at video games, but when you get to times like these, every millisecond counts. Seeing the number go down by even a fraction of a second is a win, because anything less than a minute, it gets harder and harder to get the time down by more than even a second. At the end of the day, the game is just beautiful, and is something that is missing for me in modern gaming. Like I said, I do love more complex games with crazy skill trees, farmable weapons, and RPG elements. But like I've said pretty much the entire video, the simplicity of the game and its mechanics leave nothing to be desired, besides some little tweaks to movement, and make the game one of the best in the Xbox 360 generation, and for good reason. It turned 15 years old just a couple weeks ago, and people still talk about it to this day, including me, the weird kid on the internet that knows nothing about video games. For a lot of people, the game will always hold a special place in their heart, and I'm one of those people. I hope that EA doesn't decide to kill this game completely, because it's effectively timeless, and I would love for as many people to experience it as possible, and for it to be remembered as the phenomenon it once was. Now, I'm more emotionally attached to this game, so keep my rating with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I want to give it like an 8 or 9 out of 10, but what the fuck do I know?